In today's video, I want to discuss the mindset that I believe is ruining your life just the way it was doing to mine. So let's get into it. Today we're going to discuss black and white thinking. Now you might have heard of it and maybe you haven't, so we're going to start off with the basics. What is black and white thinking? Black and white thinking is a pattern of thought that is characterized by always thinking in extremes. So everything is either really good or really bad. There's no in between. It can sound like, I always mess up, I always fail. Or, on the opposite side, that person is just perfect and they never do anything wrong. Now the next question would be, why is it bad for you? Why is it ruining your life? Number one, it stops you from being rational. It stops you from seeing things objectively, meaning that you will always only see one side of the situation, one side of that person, and even one side of yourself. It's either good or bad. A situation is either good or bad. You look good or bad. It's always an extreme. So it stops you from being realistic and looking at the bigger picture. An example of this would be when you meet someone new, whether it's a friend, a partner, and you only see them as perfect. They never do anything wrong. You don't find anything that you specifically dislike about them, and everything that they do is acceptable, it's likable. Then a while later you start to realize all of those little things that you didn't before, all of those things that you disagree on, all of those things that you dislike about them. This is because in the beginning you only saw one side of the picture. You only saw one side of this person and you directly classified it as good or bad, when in reality no one is perfect and no person is either only good or bad. This takes us to the next point, which is always making you play the role of the victim. Since everything is so terrible and everyone is so bad and the world is so unfair, you get into the habit of always blaming everything on everyone and on the world and on luck and on the universe, till you stop realizing how in control you can be. But because you're using this mindset, because you're caught up in all of the reasons the world is hurting you and people are hurting you and nothing is ever working out for you, you get to a point where you just are fed up and you blame everything on everyone. That way it's easier. It gives you an excuse to sit there in bed all day thinking about why you should never trust anyone anymore and why you should give up, because nothing ever works out for you, right? No matter how much effort you put, nothing ever works out for you and you're an unlucky person and you're left behind in life and you will never be, or you can never get to the place that you want to be because you just think that you can't do it. You think that it's impossible, which can ultimately make you end up hating your life, your surrounding, and even yourself. It is extremely dangerous to live a life blaming everyone else for everything that is happening for you. Now, whether it is true or not, whether the things that are happening with you are your fault or not, it is still your responsibility to get yourself back up and to move forward, because if you don't do that, no one is gonna do that for you. Point number 3 is causing unnecessary drama and arguments with the people around you. Now I'm gonna give you an example of this. You never listen to me. You never care about anything but yourself. I always put you first. I always prioritize you. You never do this or that for me. You never help out with anything. But if you've noticed the use of you always or you never, and they're kind of exaggerating things, and we always tend to do that during arguments because we generalize things, and then the person in front of us gets really defensive and it causes unnecessary fights. I'm pretty sure we can all relate to this one because at some point when we're fighting with someone has probably told us like, you never get off your phone, and then you feel defensive all of the sudden because that's not true. Because it's not true that you never get off your phone, or that you never listen, or that you always so on. And one last question, why do we do it? Why do we do this subconsciously? Why do we think that way? And I'm gonna tell you, it's as simple as it makes everything simple. It makes things easy to comprehend and understand in our life. We would rather classify people, situations, experiences, even ourselves as either good or bad. It just makes things easy, it makes them simple. Now the truth is, no one is only good or bad. No situation is only positive or negative. Nothing is only black or white. So like I've said, we would rather classify people as one thing. And I do get that sometimes it's a little bit complicated and we don't like to complicate things for us. For example, we would not like to accept that a person is complex, is complicated, is a complex, complicated human being that we're interacting with. We would rather directly classify them as a good person or a bad person, a good person or a toxic person. And that's what we kind of always do subconsciously to make things easier for us. It's the same thing when it comes to the way you view yourself. Most people like to classify themselves as good looking or bad looking, and it's as simple as that. In reality, everybody has aspects of things that they like and then things that they don't like about themselves, things that they find beautiful and other things that they really dislike. And that is okay because that's the normal. Just to classify ourselves as good looking or bad looking, as a good person or a bad person, same things with experiences, even with your day. So your day is usually not just good or just bad, with exception to some really bad days or really good days. Most days are average. Most days have aspects of both. Now that we've covered why it's bad for you, why this way of thinking is ruining your life, your relationships, and even the way that you view yourself sometimes, let us get into what do we do about it. The first point would be to identify the keywords, the black and white thinking keywords. Some of these keywords are always, everything, nothing, no one, everyone, and even extreme words like perfect or hate or impossible, and so on. So basically any words that signal an extreme way of thinking, whether it's positive or negative. The next time you find yourself thinking that I'm a terrible person, or I had the worst day ever, or nothing ever works out for me, or no one ever likes me, I want you to ask yourself, and this is point 2, are you being realistic? Is it true that no one in this whole world likes you? Most of the times we are exaggerating things in our mind, which in turn is exaggerating our emotions. And then once you identify that you're kind of exaggerating this thing, I want you to have a thought that replaces this exaggerated one. This can sound like nobody ever likes me, and replacing that thought with it is not really realistic that nobody in this world does not like me. It's just that I feel lonely today. This is one example. Another one would be I'm a total failure. Nothing ever works out for me. Then replacing this thought with I do not believe that I'm a failure. I just think that I didn't do as well as I intended to, and I'm a little bit disappointed. And my dear viewers, just because you think something, it does not mean it's true. It does not mean it's true about you. It does not mean that this is the objective view of the situation. And it does not mean that you're viewing the full picture.